Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Zaria Dogan. I am the Growth Marketing Coordinator here at Higher Level. You have joined our HiNotes webinar program today. Super excited with talking with Shayna Allen at S&M Coaching. Our topic today is the secret sauce to creating healthy work cultures. So before we get started, I just want to hit on a few housekeeping items. This webinar will last less than an hour. Everyone on the call is in listen-only mode, but you do have the ability to ask any questions in the chat feature. This interaction, this session will be interactive throughout it. So Shayna will ask a few questions to the audience. So please feel free to participate. And then any other questions, we will answer those towards the end. Before we get started, I would like to introduce Shayna. So as the CEO of S&M Coaching, Shayna Allen partners with human resource professionals, managers, and other people leaders with challenges such as productivity, retention, turnover, conflict resolution, and communication. With over 22 years of HR professional, she has the firsthand experience knowledge of the day and life of an HR professional. This has led her to deep experience in leadership development, high performance, team building, and business strategy. Leveraging the lessons she learned, Shayna believes that healthy work culture is a must for all companies, is attainable by creating and developing leaders and seeding and nurturing teams. Through her challenging and fun workshops, masterminds, and one-on-one coaching, she brings curiosity, innovation, and productivity to a higher level. Shayna has a degree in business management and is a team member and coach and speaker of the John Maxwell team and certified DISC consultant. Also, if you would like to join our HiNotes webinar next month, it will be on benefits trends for 2023 for employees. We will be sending out information about that later on within the next couple of weeks. But if you want to go ahead and get registered, feel free just to email me at hello@higherlevel.com and I'll get that information to you. And again, thank you all for joining. And now I pass it off to you, Shayna.
Hello, everybody. Hi, I'm Shanna Allen. Thank you for having me and coming to this webinar. I appreciate Higher Level having me a part of this. I'm very excited. And today we're going to talk about work culture, healthy work culture. That's what we hear about a lot lately. And I looked up that definition of culture and I found many different definitions. However, the most common denominator was people, right? And we know that culture is about our people. And I believe that most people go to work because they have to, right? Because they need a paycheck. And that's why I went to work and that's why I had a job. And early in my career, I found myself kind of stumbling into the HR field. And now I have about 24 years of experience as an HR professional. And through the years, I found myself in some toxic environments, and we probably have all experienced that. And I also found that on Sundays, I was dreading Mondays. And I thought, gosh, why does it got to be like this? Why can't we work in enjoyable experiences in workplaces that are enjoyable? I mean, it's just like anywhere else we go, we have enjoyable experiences. And so I just believed it could be better. I thought, hey, we should make enjoyable experiences at work and not dread Mondays on Sundays. So during my career in HR, I trained my leaders and as much as I could, because in HR, if you're in HR, there's so much to do in HR. I tried to really train my leaders and the teams to create those healthier and happier and productive environments. And so, again, I'm Shanna Allen, and I am the CEO of SM Coaching. And I am in a great rewarding position. And I am in that position now because I am helping businesses to really work with reducing turnover, employee engagement, and helping with those conflicts that go on in the workplaces. So then what I would like to talk about today with you is we're going to talk about revealing the employee turnovers, revealing why employee turnover really happens, that secret sauce to effective communication, leadership styles, and adjust your work culture to create those happy and healthy work environments. Now, during my years in HR, I discovered that in companies, I worked in several different companies. And so in some companies, in the same companies, there were some employees, there would be one department and they would be happy employees in that department. And then there would be another department and they weren't so happy, right? Same company, but different departments. And then in another company, maybe most all the employees weren't happy at all. And then I found at other companies that these were it was the same company, but it was different locations maybe. And one location had almost, a pretty good amount of happy employees. And then another location, not so happy employees, same company. And I'm like, what is it? Why is this? And so we know that there are many reasons why people aren't happy. And sometimes it's benefits and sometimes it's pay. But, when you're working for the same company, there's other things as well. But what I experienced is that the main reason was it was their managers, it was their supervisors or their leaders, and it was usually their direct supervisors or leaders. And so I always like to look at the stats and the surveys, and a Gallup study said that 58% of managers and leaders stated that they had never had leadership training. Now, that's over 50% of our managers and leaders out there that are leading people that have never had one bit of training. And a lot of people end up in those positions because maybe they've worked for a job in a certain department for years and they do a great job and they know that department, and then a position becomes available in management and then they're put in that job and they aren't given any type of training. And so, wow, what a hard thing for them. I mean, they've worked side by side with people and then they're put in this position to now lead these people and no training. I often ask my clients, would you put somebody on a machine and never give them training on that machine? Or would you put your new person or someone in the department to talk to your customers or your clients and never give them any training? It's really the same thing. Also, a Gallup study revealed that only 2 out of 10 employees strongly agree that their performance was managed in a way that motivates them to do outstanding work. So that really shows where there's a lack there of that management training. Now, so how do we have healthy work cultures where people want to stay at your company, outside of the benefits and the pay? Now, we hear, hey, your employees need to be engaged. You need to reduce conflict. You need to give recognition to your employees. When you're hiring people, you need to make sure you're putting the right people in the right positions. You need to show appreciation for your employees. In the workforce, people need to understand the differences of each other and they need to respect each other. And we really do know that this is true because, we see the stats on that. Now, recognition is the number one thing employees say would inspire them to produce great work. And we also really know that highly engaged teams, they outperform the rest in those business outcomes that are crucial to the success of our organizations. Engaged employees have higher well-being, better retention, and lower absenteeism and higher productivity. However, there's a study that says 50% of employees, they're not engaged. You know, we hear that a lot. And respecting each other in the workplace, and having those diverse environments, 49% of all employees see that clashes between personalities and egos are the leading cause of workplace conflicts. You know, so what does that mean for your business or your organization or your company? And if you're an HR professional, or you're somebody, maybe you don't have that title, but you're the one that deals with all that, you deal with that as well. I mean, how much time are you spending on turnover and employee conflicts? I know being in that profession or doing that job, it is a lot of time, and there's so much more to be done too, that, you know, you're spending time. I mean, I remember looking at, okay, I've had this position and I've had to rehire someone 6 to 10 times for this exact same position for a year. That's a lot of time spending putting out the fires, as what I call it. And so, you know, cost of turnover is a minimum of $10,000 per person for a company, for a business. That hurts, right? And that's just like an entry level position. So many of these things that I just talked about, they require communication, and not just communication, because communication can be bad, as we know that, but effective communication. You know, to effectively communicate, we must communicate with the people in our lives. We must have a good connection. So connection is the secret sauce to effective communication. We've got to connect with people to have a good relationship with them. I want you to watch this video real quick. So.
Hey, Mary, got some more reports from procurement for you to process. Sort of reminds you of Office Space, huh? The movie? TPS reports? Guess you're too young for that.
Well, I was still in diapers when you were getting back into diapers.
This old geezer could probably help you with those. Know all the codes by heart. Let me know. LMK.
Sure, if I need help, I'll, you know.
I do indeed. Hey, Mary, I wonder if you could help me with something. Minecraft.
Listen, Gary, I appreciate what you're doing, but I'm not 12, and I have reports to process.
I'm just trying to get through to a friend.
Get through to a friend? You know, that's a song lyric.
Yeah, 20-pound sledge. They were down last week, you know.
Yeah, I was there. Wait, you weren't...
Oldest guy in the mosh pit.
Oh my gosh, you're a legend.
Try telling that to my grandkids.
Okay, so can anyone else relate to a situation like this? You know, like in the beginning of that generation gap, like absolutely no connection at all. I mean, maybe you've even had that with your kids, or maybe when you have finally connected with someone, when you haven't been able to connect. And I think in this video, like Gary really found a way to connect with Mary. And can't we see a huge difference when we don't have a connection with somebody, and how that workplace goes and how that atmosphere is, and when we do have a connection? And I think we can really see that. I would guess that Mary and Gary are really going to start engaging more, and probably their productivity is going to go up more now that they've had a connection. And so, how do we connect? It's really hard because we have there's different backgrounds and different generations and genders and political ideas, and it just goes on and on and on, right? But what if we don't have anything in common? Like, we can't find anything. We've tried to, some people easy. We both like baseball. We both like gardening, whatever that may be. We both have kids, things like that we connect with. But what if we don't? And so maybe that person just thinks completely differently than you. They think differently than you, right? Totally different. They move differently than you. Maybe you even drive each other crazy. Or maybe there's like two people on your team that are just constantly like that. Or it could be even two children that are like this that you have. So I want to talk to you today about that. I want to give you a tool that can really help you start connecting. And even those people that you do have something in common with, you might be able to connect in one area, but maybe not in another area. So I want to show you a tool and how to use this tool to create those connections. And what the great thing is, we're talking about the workplace, but you can take this tool in any relationship you have. I've had people in their marriages really improve their marriages with this tool as well. And so we're going to talk about DISC. And many of you have heard about this. Maybe you've even taken an assessment, but I want to show you how you can apply it and how you can really use it to your advantage when you dive a little bit deeper into this. So today, I want you to learn about you, because we have to learn about ourselves first, and then we learn about the other people in our lives. So first, I want you to look at these patterns. And I want you to think about what these patterns might represent. What would these patterns match? And I'm going to give you a few seconds to do that. What would they match up to? Now I'm going to tell you that they're animal patterns. Now I have a question for you. When I told you they were animal patterns, when I gave you one piece of information about it, was it much easier to kind of figure out what they matched? I would say it probably was. And so did you guess the tiger and the Dalmatian, the zebra or the giraffe, or did you at least get more correct? And so the same holds true for the people in our lives. When we become aware of the pattern of how we communicate and how other people in our lives communicate, we not only know what kind of communication to expect from them, but we also know how we're communicating, and we know how to best prepare for them, how to interact with them, and how to respond to them in order to have successful communications. So once we know how we're wired and how someone else is wired, we can build deeper and better relationships. And this holds true for anybody, like I said, our teams, our customers, our clients, and our family members. So I'm going to give you a little bit about DISC, some history. DISC really all started in 444 BC. It started with two philosophers, and they started really looking at human behavior. And then in 1921, Carl Jung took that information and he started working with it a little bit more. And he created the Myers-Briggs, and I'm sure some of you have heard about that. And in 1926, William Marston took it even further, and he's the one who came up with the DISC method. And that's the dominance, the D for dominance, I for influence, S for steadiness, and C for compliance. And that's how we got DISC. Now let's talk about what shapes our personality. There are three different things that shape our personality. That's heredity, and that's from birth, right? That's our three, that's our behavioral patterns. That's our DNA, and really can't do a whole lot about that. Our environment. So that's our environment that really, and this is a huge thing that impacts our styles. And those were our emotionally and charged situations back in our development years. Things that really had a big impact on us when we were kids, like up to like 8 years old. Then our role models, those were people that were in our lives, that were our role models. Maybe they taught us what was valuable in life, or maybe they even wanted us to behave a certain way and they rewarded us for those certain behaviors. And so these are the three things that contribute to what our disc style is. Okay, so now we're going to learn about you through the D, the I, the S, and the C. And so I want to tell you a few things about the style before you go in to try to identify your style. Now, when you do with DISC, you take an assessment. We don't have time to do that today. We're not doing that today. So I'm going to show you some other ways to try to identify what style you are. When you take the assessment, it's a 30-page detailed report, and it shows you all these characteristics. Now, this assessment gets really, really detailed in things. So you get a dominant style on that report, but then you get a couple of other styles. You might get a couple of other styles that are really close to that dominant style. And typically people have 2 styles, sometimes 3. So if you're kind of teetering on a style, try to pick, that's normal and that's okay. Just try to pick that dominant style. And if you're sometimes it's so close, it's kind of hard. But I wanted you to know that that was normal. Also, 2 people can be, let's say, a D. But when you take the assessment, there's a chart, and it will put you in a range on that chart. So 2 people might be a D, but one might be a D that rated a 12, and one might be a D that rated a 2. So the characteristics that we'll talk about today, that D that's a 12 might be really high in that characteristic, or really like dramatic in that characteristic, and the 2D might be really lower in that characteristic. Okay, so, and then there's no right or wrong answer. None of these styles are right or wrong. We need every single style in our lives, in our workplaces, and everything that we do. Okay, so let's get started. So talking about a D, if you are a D, this is something that you are very direct. You seek results. I mean, results are what motivate you. You are very task oriented. You are a multitasker, and you want the bottom line. And if there's change, you're okay with it if you're going to get the results that you've been looking for. You are bold, you are confident, you make decisions, you are very direct, you are productive. And because of your directness, because you are results driven, you are excellent at meeting deadlines, and you are excellent in emergency situations. You also are very good about getting people to take action. So another reason why you're good at delegating. Let's get the job done. You put people in positions where you think that they need to be to get the project completed. You're persistent, very goal oriented. Now, some obstacles that may run into, you can be argumentative and you can be a little opinionated sometimes. Some of the other styles may see you as inconsiderate or cold because you don't sugarcoat anything. You're just direct. And so they might see that as being that way. You may not mean that way, but they may see it as that way. You can be a bit confrontational. An S style will really see you as being confrontational because you are so direct, and not meaning that that you mean it that way, but that's kind of how it's perceived sometimes. And you're not that person that's going to go around and pat everybody on the back and tell them good job all the time. Your greatest fear is being taken advantage of. And D's are 3% of the population. I's. Now, I's, you are those friendly people. You like friendly environments. You are also active, just like the D, but you are people oriented. And you like relationships. You are a great storyteller. You are emotional and animated, and you treasure the experiences you treasure are the ones with other people. You are an influencer. You are persuasive. As you talk, you like to talk, and as you talk, you become very creative in your ideas, and most people like you. Now, remember we were talking about that rating. A high I might be over the top too much because they're always talking. A lower I might talk, but they don't talk near as much. Also in the spotlight, a high I might have to have the spotlight, but a lower I is okay. They don't have to be in the spotlight, but they're okay with it. I's inspire other people. Now, some of those obstacles could be that you might seem undisciplined. An I can get distracted because they are people oriented. So if they're working on a task in their office and somebody comes into their office, they're going to stop those tasks and talk to that person because they would much rather have a conversation with the person than work on these tasks. So sometimes they don't follow through. Sometimes they waste time. They can overcommit because they are really wanting, they want people to be happy. And sometimes they can talk too much and not listen. Greatest fear for an I is rejection or loss of approval, and they are 11% of the population. Okay, S's. Now, S's are steady, they're stable, they love a team environment. They are also people oriented, very loyal, they're easy, they're agreeable, they're great listeners, and they want peace. Peaceful relationships, peaceful environments. They're very supportive. Now you're going to find probably an S trying to mediate. You got two people maybe on your team that are not kind of getting along. You might see an S step in and try to mediate that because they want everybody to get along and they want it to be peaceful. S's are reserved and they like routine. They're not big on change. S's, sometimes the obstacles with them, they aren't direct. They may not tell you how they feel because they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. They do need reassurance. So especially if you're going through change or something like that, you might have to say, hey, we're going to get through this. We're going to work through this, and I'll be right here with you, helping you get through this. They can be slow to start. They will shut down during confrontation. So D's, you really got to be careful if you have an S on your team because they're going to see you as confrontational if you're being direct. And then they just freeze up. So they stop. They get overwhelmed. They don't make good decisions. So if you need a decision made, S is probably not the one to go to. And they're skeptical. Now, the greatest fear of an S is loss of security and confrontation. And they are 69% of the population. So the majority of the population is an S. C's. Now they're great. They are logic and facts. That's what they thrive on. Logic and facts is their thing. They love it. They are compliant. They are conscientious. They are compliant. I said that. They are data driven. They gather facts. Now, I know when I get something from a C that I am going to have quality work, and that is really an excellent thing because we need that. They're planners. They're orderly. They're organized. Now, some things they might overanalyze because they are trying to get those facts and they're trying to get the data and they want everything to be perfect because they treasure perfection. Now, they will avoid risk and they can be slow to start because they're just trying to gather all that stuff. A C is a task-oriented person. So they're always working at the task at hand. So they may not see that big picture. So sometimes you have to help them out with that. Those higher C's really like to work alone. A lower C may not necessarily want to work alone, but they like a smaller group. A greatest fear of a C is criticism, and they are 17% of the population. Okay, so a real quick question. I would like to see you put in the chat what style you think you are. And if you're like, whoa, I'm teetering, man, I'm close to 2 of them, go ahead and put 2 of them in the chat as well. And I would like to tally those up just to get an idea of, you know, how many people are certain styles. I always really like to know that. So type that in the chat if you would. I'm going to tell you a little story about what we just talked about. I worked as an HR director for a global label printing company, and I was responsible, and I helped several operations in the US. And there was one particular GM in my Kentucky location that I just seemed not to get very far with when I was proposing my ideas for improvement. I just could not understand this. And I even started like taking it personally. And I was like, maybe he doesn't feel like I'm qualified to make these decisions. And I thought, man, all he cares about is the bottom line. And he doesn't really care about the people. You know, I really started to think that. And then I was introduced to DISC. And I started learning about DISC styles and things that really things started to take a positive turn for me. And I started to understand more about this GM. And I started to understand how I was communicating with him. And that was not the way he was communicating. He needed me to communicate with him. I started to realize that I was not communicating that way. And I saw him in a different way when I started to learn about DISC. And I began to adjust my style. And I want to show you something. Let's go back to the characteristics of these 2 styles. I'm an I style, if you haven't guessed that already. So as an I, and I just put some of the characteristics up here. I told a story, right? Because that's what I do. And I did it with enthusiasm. And I'm sure I put a lot of emotion into it because we were talking about people. And I'm very people oriented. And I talked about my plan and how that was going to benefit the employees. I not only like people, I was in HR, right? And how it was going to improve morale and how the employee would be happier. Well, my GM, he was a D. And I was people oriented, he was task oriented. I was telling a story, he wanted me to get to the point. He wanted the bottom line. He wanted to know what the results are. I was on the emotional end of the situation. He is not, you know, he just wanted to know what results are we going to get. He didn't want me to sugarcoat it because he doesn't sugarcoat things. I was talkative, so you know, I would fluff it up probably a little bit, and so I was in there for a while. Let's just get straight to the point, just be direct, let's just do this thing. And he was probably getting impatient with me. I like to inspire other people, and he's just not that real complimentary, right? So I mean, if you look at this, you could really see where there was some conflict going on between the 2 of us. And so this is a great example of how we can see where these styles can be in conflict in the workplace. So you know what I did? Instead of waiting for him to change, because he knew nothing about DISC, I had to adjust my style and to make it a better work environment. And I started to go in with the tasks that were needed for the jobs. I got straight to the point, and I told him how it was going to affect the bottom line and what results he would get from it. And you know what? It was the same idea, and it was the same goal, but it was a different presentation, and it made a huge difference. Things then started to happen. Guess what? Morale started to go up. Employees were happier. Attendance was better. I knew that's what we needed to create the bottom line he was looking for, to create the results he was looking for. But I had to present it to him in the way that he understood. And so it was a win-win for all of us. So that's just an example. And this is why this is just a passion for me, because I've seen such great results with it. Okay, so I want to also talk about, now you've kind of seen, you know, maybe you now know your style, but let's talk about the other people in your life. Now, your employees and your teams, yeah, you can give them that assessment, right? But what if we can't? What if we're talking about our clients or our customers? I want to show you a kind of a quick way that you can kind of start to recognize their styles. And obviously you can go back to what we talked about with the different styles and the different characteristics. You can do that, especially if you have clients and customers that you talk to on a regular basis, or they're return customers. But I'm going to show you a quick way. So we're going to break it down to outgoing or reserved. So you're going to identify, are they outgoing or are they reserved? So an outgoing person is somebody who's fast-paced. They walk faster, they talk faster, they're animated, their tone and their voice is going to fluctuate. They're one of those people that they're okay walking into a room with people they don't know and just introducing themselves to strangers. In fact, they like to meet new people. They are people who maybe get in an elevator with them and they say good morning, and they don't know anybody in that elevator. They are perfectly comfortable with meeting new people and talking and expressing their ideas. A more reserved person they're slower paced. They talk in a more steady tone. They walk at a more normal pace. And you know what? They really don't even want to go to that event with all those people they don't know. And even if they go to that event, they're going to sit down at a table and they might talk to somebody at the table, but they're not going to be walking around that event looking for people to talk to. And that person in the elevator, they'll say hello back, but they're not going to initiate that hello or good morning. And they may not even might make eye contact with you if they are really reserved. So if you said, you know what, I think this person is outgoing, they're either going to be a D or an I. And if you say, hey, I know they're reserved, a C or an S. And now we're going to break it down one more time. Are they task-oriented or are they people-oriented? A task-oriented person thinks about the task first. Doesn't mean that they don't think about the people, but they first think about task. They ask questions about the task. They talk about the task. They write down the tasks. It's about the task. The people-oriented obviously do the same, but do that with people. They ask about the people who are going to be involved. They talk about the people who are going to be involved. They write down the people who are going to be involved. Those are your people-oriented people. So if you identify on a person, hey, they're outgoing and they're people-oriented, they're going to probably be an I. If they're people-oriented and reserved, then they're an S, more than likely. Reserved or task-oriented, a C. Task-oriented or outgoing, a D. And if you don't know anything, you know that 69% of the population is an S. So, you know, you probably have your best chance of going with the S characteristics. Okay, so I just kind of did a little breakdown here of kind of all those to see that big picture for any of you big picture people, you know. And when we're hiring people, it is really important to put people in the right positions in the beginning and when you're hiring. So the DISC has what we call a benchmark and interview part of it, but it also takes those things about a person that they may not even be aware of. behavioral styles and their value to teams and the way they interact in a team and way they interact in different ways and their own values and a bunch of different other ways that you can take their assessment and compare it to the benchmark of that position. And it kind of takes all the guesswork out of, you know, this person, these candidates that maybe they're your top candidates and you're trying to make a decision on that. So, I mean, for example, and DISC helps you with this. For example, if it's a fast-paced environment in this position, and I know this is pretty obvious, you're not going to put an S in that position because they aren't about change. They like steady and stable, right? So we wouldn't want to put that person in a fast-paced, changing environment. Your salespeople are going to be more of your D styles and your I style peoples and not your S's and your C's. So this is the way that we can use that and apply that. And that's what I do with my clients. We do case studies and I just come in and, okay, what's going on in your environment? And we talk about, we kind of like talk that out and look at the styles and how we can fix the conflict that's going on or make it a better environment. So this can really help you if you just dive a little deeper into this and take this information that I've given you and start to really brainstorm about it and apply it. And today, after this webinar, you can take this and start using this. Start going out, and I challenge you to start going out and being aware of the people that you're around and try to figure out what DISC style they are. Okay, so let's talk real quickly. Communicating with the D. If you're communicating with the D, be brief, direct, and to the point. D's ask what questions. So ask what questions. Focus on results, don't ramble, and discuss a problem and its effect on the outcomes. Communicating with an I, don't do all the talking. I's like to talk and don't ignore their ideas. As they're talking, they are creating great ideas. Allow time for socializing. If they go get coffee and they talk to somebody, let them talk a little bit. They do need boundaries, but let them talk a little bit. If you've got a project, say a new project going on, and you run into them in the hallway and there's some details they need to know, maybe talk about a few, but tell them you're going to email them the rest of the details. If you talk about too many details, you will lose them. They won't even remember the first ones you talked about. So definitely follow up in writing. If you're having meetings and they're long, give them several short breaks. S's, they need friendly tones, friendly work environments. Show interest in them as a person. They are people oriented, but specifically with their families too. And don't be aggressive. Don't be confrontational with them. And they need to know what your expectations are of them and what part they play in that. And then also how to do that. If they know those things, they will do a great job and they will get the job done. C's, you must provide all the detail. Validate facts. Be precise in your explanation. Be very specific, and you got to be patient with them because they're going to ask a lot of questions. And if you don't know the answer, don't make it up. Go find the answer and get back with them. Okay, I think that's everything today. Hey, if you would like to email me with your DISC style, I would love to send you a profile card. And on the front, it's going to tell you about your style. And then when you flip it over, it's going to tell you as your style how to communicate with all the other styles. So thank you so much for your time today. And go ahead and we're going to open it up, I think, now. And any questions you may have, I would love to talk to you about that. Also, I have a QR code here. If you would want to talk going forward about something going on in your workplace, let me know. I would love to chat with you. Thank you so much.
That was great. Thank you, Shayna. The results, I did tally those up for the disc, and we have 1D, 5 I's, 4 S's, and 3 C's. I think I was teetering. I think I'm definitely an I for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, that was really good information. I think that was
Great.
like a lot of like, it made you kind of think like, oh yeah, I do that, but I do that as well too. That's
Right.
great.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was really good. I
That's
think we
cool.
can definitely print this off. We can
I
print this off and take it to the higher level team and kind of
Right.
see what everybody else thinks too.
Very cool.
Um, I'm not seeing any other questions at the moment.
Yeah, and even if you have some challenging things going on in your workforce, we could talk about that too if anybody's interested, or maybe something really specific about two styles, communicating.
Yeah. We have one question. Can we get a copy of the slide presentation?
Yes. If you want to send me your email, I can send that over. My email is on this slide. Can you see the slide that I have up here?
Yes.
Can y'all see that slide?
If
Can
you
you
want
see?
to send it to me, Shayna, I can send it to
Oh,
her.
okay. I can do that. Perfect.
Any more questions? Okay. Well, that's all I see. We had a comment for says thank you, very good presentation. And then another, I would love a copy of the slides. Thank you so much for this presentation.
Okay.
Great job, Shayna.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And again, if anybody thinks of anything, I don't mind you shoot me an email, and I would love to answer any questions you may have.
Good, sounds good. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I'll get those slides right out to everyone, and you all have a rest of your day. Good rest of your day.
Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.